Well, hello everyone. We are so excited to be back with you guys for another episode of Salty Talk, where we get a little salty, but we really work to equip you as the listener, as a community minister, working to do amazing work throughout your community. And we are actually doing kind of a part two to our human trafficking topic. We previously just talked to Carrie, who is an amazing woman who shared her story. She herself is a survivor of trafficking, and man, has God worked in her story, brought restoration, and is using her in such a powerful way to make a difference in the lives of those who are still being trafficked. And so, anyways, we loved having that conversation. If you haven't heard it, go back. But today, first, I'm excited to always be with my co-host. We've got Becky King in Kentucky. We've got Jerome, who was in Arizona, but now in Ohio. So, hey guys, welcome.
Oh, H.
Hi,
Hey, hey.
hi. How you
What's up, Salty
journey?
Talk community?
Yo, yo. And then today, I'm so grateful that my friend Jennifer
Mhm.
decided to be on the podcast with us. Jen, so I'm here in Orange County, California, and I get to work closely with Jen related to the Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force and Waymakers, the organization she works with that is a big part of the task force. So, Jen, thank you for being with us. And can you introduce yourself and tell us about how your role fits in what the Human Trafficking Task Force does? Kind of bring us up to speed.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I've worked with Erica for years, and I'm just so grateful for everything that she's done these past few years for our organization and for our task force. So I'm just so grateful to be here. My name is Jennifer Juarez, and I am the Client Resource and Volunteer Coordinator for the Human Trafficking Unit at Waymakers. Waymakers is actually the co-administrators of the Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force with the Anaheim PD. So the task force was created in 2004, but we're just a large collaboration of all different organizations working together. We work with law enforcement, we work with the DA's office, social services, community members like churches and other victim service providers. And so because we are the administrators of the task force, a lot of the programs run through us, including the volunteer program and those collaborations with the churches.
Yes, it's been so fun
That's
to
awesome.
collaborate with the task force and get to hear Jen's heart and vision and things she's excited about getting churches involved in. So I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, this is super exciting. Again, Jen, thank you for being on with us. So, in this church space, which obviously we are super biased to and super involved with, tell us what have you seen in your experience, how churches can be or have been the most effective in joining the fight against human trafficking? What does that look like?
Um, Gosh, I think for me personally, the most effective way for them to kind of join the fight is to partner with another organization that is already in that work. Somebody who obviously is credentialed and somebody who has the survivor voice buy-in. That to me is the most effective way to kind of be able to partner and make sure that you are doing the correct role.
Mhm.
Then also making sure that you are listening to that partner and figuring out
Mhm.
their needs and going off of that. But I also love it when churches ask me, what do you need from us? I always respond to them with, well, what are you already doing? What are you
Mhm.
good at?
Mm,
Right?
Mhm.
mhm.
That is super
Yep.
effective because that way they don't have to recreate the wheel.
Mhm.
When churches come to me and say, oh, what can I do? A lot of times that then involves me trying to create something for them. Right. If
Mhm.
they
Mhm.
come to me and they already know what they're good at, let's say it's fundraising, let's say
Mhm.
they have a food pantry, right? And I can
Mhm.
partner with them in that way. That is absolutely wonderful.
I think a lot of
Awesome.
people, when they think about helping in the human trafficking world, you like forget that we're walking with people rebuilding their lives. So, like the example you use about a food
Mhm.
pantry, it's because you are trying to resource and support women most times, but men as
Mhm.
well, working to rebuild their life and basic needs are a common denominator among so many different quote causes, but human trafficking is no different in the sense that we got to help them be foundational. So, church listener, if you're like, wait, food pantry, I thought it was going to be like motel vouchers and backpacks, and yes, but it's just we're peeling back the layers already of how many different things you can do.
Yeah, and I think also, again, we use this example a lot in the task force. Is if you look at human trafficking as a iceberg, right? Human trafficking is the tip of the iceberg, right? And everybody wants to address the tip of the iceberg. But really,
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to be able to fulfill the need unless we address what's beneath the surface, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, a lot of churches, I prefer when a lot of churches are able to address those precursors to human trafficking, right? Like, what are the
Mm-hmm.
precursors to human trafficking? Do we already have a ministry that we can just call human trafficking prevention? That could be helping foster care, mothers in need. That could be poverty. That so many different things. Child abuse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I also feel like if churches just kind of tweak the title of some
Yeah.
of their ministries, they could be doing human trafficking prevention. And it's so helpful because a lot of times, if we're only focusing on the tip of the iceberg, not saying that if you're helping with that, it's too late. It's not, but really we need to prevent it, right? We need
Mm-hmm.
more people looking at the role to prevent this from happening before it even begins.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
think
that's
that
really
is
good.
I love analogies, Jennifer. So I'm so glad that you use it because it painted the brightest picture for me. The
Mm-hmm.
neurons in my brain were just lighting up like a Christmas tree. And so I think that when you look at it as an iceberg, to your point and to your analogy, it really opens up so many more possibilities for churches, volunteers, other organizations to get involved because now you have all these touch points where you can find your expertise or your niche.
Mhm.
So I'm
Exactly.
thinking of even a Sunday school teacher can
Mm-hmm.
can jump in
Exactly.
preventing human trafficking by teaching little boys to be respectful to little
Mm-hmm.
girls and
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
vice versa, and have an
Mm-hmm.
honor and respect for each other at a young age. And then when you start building these lessons and these skills, right, into these young children at 5 and 6 years old, then when they're 18, when they're 25, those things bubble up to the surface, and now they're helping others do the same thing. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's just a wonderful, wonderful analogy. I really appreciate that. I hope
Yeah.
our listeners, I hope that travels because that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do something called the string activity. Um,
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it just shows that everybody is connected to other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have strings and connections to all these
Mm,
individuals. And a lot of times, our survivors, those strings get broken and they end up
Mm-hmm.
alone and by themselves, and they have to navigate,
mm,
these hard situations by themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so I always tell our volunteers and our church groups and whoever is looking to help is the simplest way is just figuring out whose strings are you holding in your life, right? And
Mm-hmm.
being able to
mm,
pour into those people. Is that your niece? Is that your nephew? Is that, are
Mm-hmm.
you a teacher? Is that somebody that's in your classroom, right? And being
Mm-hmm.
able just to help that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone seems to want to help when the, throwaway kid has an HT stamped on their forehead. But when
Mm.
they, but
Yeah.
before that, they
mhm,
were just, the throwaway kid that causes problems and nobody wants to help. So if we can
Mm-hmm.
just rearrange our thought process and have a different perspective, I think that that would really help. So sorry, I
mm.
know that was off
Yeah.
topic, but
No,
No,
that's
that's
really
exactly what we
great.
want.
I love that analogy of the strings that you hold, and just in your life, how can you, because we don't want to recreate that wheel, right? Like we
yeah,
don't want to, we want to go find looking for something, like find the assignment that's in your life now, and lean into
Mm-hmm.
that.
mhm.
In terms of like, working with churches, this is salty talk, so we want to get a little bit salty with you. That's okay. And we want to hear, we know all the good things of the churches and the postures, but what is the most surprising thing that you've experienced working with churches? Because this is, listener, if you're sitting here listening to this, we really want to encourage you by others' mistakes, if you
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
will. of like, hey,
Mhm.
what is some of the things that are just like, like,
Yes.
that was not helpful, or because I
Mhm.
know, from my vantage point, I've gone in thinking that I know all the things, and like, I'm going to just bless this whole thing off their socks, and it's just, they're like, yeah, that's really not what we need, and it's kind of
Yes.
Mhm.
surprising. It'll put you back in your seat of like, okay, let me change my posture. So what are
Mhm.
some of the most surprising things about working with churches to help the listener kind of engage maybe or reframe it in a different way?
Yeah. So I have a couple thoughts on that. Personally, and I know this is a positive thing, but we can talk about the salty stuff in just a minute. But I was just so surprised on how much, because our organization is not faith-based at all. So I was just so surprised on how much collaboration I do with the church, and how you guys, for lack of a better word, are really the hands and the feet of the
Mhm.
organization.
Mhm.
And being able to call them on a daily basis. I mean, who would have thought that being in my position, working with government entities and victim service providers, that I would be calling the churches that I trust and know
Mhm.
on a daily basis, brainstorming, figuring out how we're going to address the needs for clients, the needs for outreach and education and prevention. And I think that the posture that those churches have taken have built the trust in our organization that we feel that we can go ahead and call them.
Mhm.
I think it's important that the churches get the buy-in from their leadership, right?
Mhm.
They're able to, you know, turn around quickly and get things done, right? If you
Mhm.
don't have the buy-in from your leadership or they don't understand the vision, it's
Mhm.
very difficult to partner. It's very
Mhm.
difficult to be able
Agreed.
to build that trust, right?
Mhm.
Because we're constantly in crisis, right?
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
need to be able to have the buy-in from the leadership so that way things move quickly and
Yeah.
that we know that it's not, the church is not going to turn around and say, oh, sorry, we can't do that because they said
Yeah.
no, right? We already know
Mhm.
ahead of time that they're
Mhm.
uh, they're all on board and they're going to be able
Mhm.
to help.
Mhm.
It's
I
like they know
think
what they're good at. It's like that thing. Like if you show
exactly,
up knowing what you're good at, then you know what you can do.
Exactly.
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. You don't want to
And
have to work with a church that's like, hey, we have to do 12 invoices to get like 4 toothbrushes to your organization and,
Right.
care packages.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Triplicate form.
yes. um,
Right.
I think too, just being able to build that trust. So I think when a church comes to me and is like, well, we want to do something for our church and we want those volunteer opportunities for our church, right?
Mhm.
They're not understanding the full picture, and not that we
Mhm.
can't get
Mhm.
to that point, right? But I would
Mhm.
love it if churches come to me, and we partner in a way of like, hey, we're willing to help with whatever. Here are some ideas because here is what we're good at, but
Mhm.
we're also willing to do whatever you'd like us to do. A lot of
Mhm.
times churches will come in with an agenda of like,
Mhm.
hey, we
Mhm.
only want to work with survivors, right? Or we
Mhm.
only want to
Mhm.
do street outreach. But if that
Right.
is not the most helpful way,
Mhm.
for our task force and organization, then it's just not helpful, right? And
Yes.
Right.
um, if we're going to be a body and we're all have these different roles and parts, then
Mhm.
you need to step in a way where you're
Mhm.
just open to what's going to be best for the body as a whole. But I also understand the tension there, right? Because you do need
Mhm.
things
Mhm.
for your churches and for your congregation to do. But that's where the
Mhm.
trust building comes in. If you
Right.
can
Mhm.
build the trust with that organization and show up just as is and say, hey, we'll help with whatever you need, then you eventually will become one of those partners that they do call and ask, hey, do you have some volunteers that can help mentor? Do you have some volunteers that may be able to do this particular project? So you'll get
Right.
there, but you just really need to be able to build that trust first and come in with that posture of, hey, like, we're open to whatever you guys need. We're just reactive. And then also here are some ideas of what we're already good at. So
Mhm.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, and how have you seen that go well? So like how
Yeah.
have you seen churches come together? Because I think initially when you think about like an event or a certain thing, you could be like, oh, well, I'll take that whole event or I'll take that whole, but
Yes.
have you seen it kind of play out differently than maybe we would expect?
I think for me, when I'm working with churches, it's them just saying yes to the little things. So saying yes to, I know a lot of churches will come back and tell me, we don't want to just do backpacks. We don't want to just do, but if you do those things, right? If
Mm-hmm.
I say, hey, I really need backpacks, that's what I need
Mm-hmm.
right now. And they're
Mhm.
able to do that. Then I'm like, okay, they said yes. I
Mm-hmm.
now can take the next step and have them help with something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's
Mhm.
lots of ways that churches have come to me. Again, if they come to me and say, hey, I'm really good at this, then I'm like, cool, let's partner in that way,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
I'll take the fundraiser, for example, right? So I had a church say, hey, we just happen to be really good at fundraisers. What church says that? No church has ever
Yeah.
said that, right?
Yes.
And so they were able to do this huge awareness event. And then we were able to create, because of that funding that they were able to get, we were able to create something called the Rising Above Fund. And that goes to the education of all of our clients, right?
That's
So
awesome.
they're able to get books, they're able to get grade
Yeah.
school or whatnot. So that's been really cool to see. I've had churches, we have one church that she was a pastor and she's like, I love to educate the youth, right?
Mhm.
And so we started partnering with her and she started doing presentations for us, and some of her
That's
people
great.
started doing presentations. And she would go to all of these different classes and middle school
Mm.
students. And at one
Mm-hmm.
point, she said, hey, I just have to tell you this story. At the end of the presentation, I said to the class, why do you think that I'm telling you all of this? And they didn't know. And she's like, and I said, I'm telling you this because you matter. And I don't know if anybody has
Mm-hmm.
told you that before, but you guys
Mm.
really matter. And
Mm-hmm.
because of that one sentence, she said you could hear a pin drop, and that
That's
there was
great.
actually kids crying. And because of that, we were able
Oh.
to take that one sentence and turn it into a whole campaign. And we called
Mm.
it the Ask Me Why I Matter campaign. And
Oh,
that campaign
I love that.
still goes on today. We educate hundreds of students in January for our Know More, Do Better event. And we
Mhm.
have a poster board. She actually ended up passing away. But we
Mm.
have a poster board. And one of the activities is for the kids to put why they believe they matter. And they
Oh,
put a
I
Mm-hmm.
sticky
love
note on the
that.
poster board. But she did that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
she collaborated with us. She was good at educating. She was good at communicating with students, and she was able to mobilize her church
Mm-hmm.
and also herself and create something beautiful, partnering with the task force.
What would you say to a community minister who is may be sitting here listening to this thinking like, I don't even know where I would start, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're really good at fundraising, I'll go
Yeah.
do this. Like
Mm-hmm.
those two, how would you want those two churches to connect with each other before
Yeah.
they
Mm-hmm.
come to an organization?
Yeah, that would be wonderful. So we actually have something that we created, and Erica was a part of it. It's called the Faith-Based Advisory Council. Because we had so many churches within the task
Mm-hmm.
force, uh, we wanted a space where these faith-based communities could come together and collaborate. And so what we did is instead of the churches coming in and asking, okay, what can we do as an individual church?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We had them come together and say, okay, what can we do as a faith community? Let's
Yeah.
create something completely different, right? Let's create something that is not just a one-time project. Let's educate the faith community in a bigger way. It's not about
Mm-hmm.
you. It's not about
Love
me.
that.
It's not about
Mm-hmm.
like us just taking something from the task force and bringing it back to our church. We're
Yeah.
actually going to collaborate and create something different that we can use to create that we can use to educate the faith
Mhm.
community as a whole.
Yeah.
So that would be really cool if churches got together and kind of figured out what they could do together first.
Hmm.
And again, not about their church or this person's church, but as a whole. But if
Hmm.
they're looking to get involved with the fight against human trafficking, I would say is figure out who is in your area, right? That's already
Hmm.
doing
Mhm.
the work, right?
Hmm.
Who's the victim service provider? Do you have a
Hmm.
task force?
Hmm.
And contact those individuals and go
Hmm.
from
Mhm.
there and ask them, hey, how can we come alongside you and how can we support?
Yeah,
Right.
that's really
And
good.
that can be the starting point. Because again, there's somebody always doing the work. You just need to figure out who, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Figure out
Yes.
what role
Yes.
you are going to play.
Yeah.
I hope that's
And
really helpful.
totally. And I love in the Faith-Based Advisory Council environment, there was probably like 8 to 10 different churches that were represented and connected to, we had a list of other churches. And so we were kind of working to keep people involved. But we would look at a long list from Jen and the task force of what are some of the gaps. And it would be anywhere
Mhm.
from prevention. So, like educating youth, we have these programs that want education, but we don't have the people. We have men's, like, what about demand? There's not just the victims, there's
Mhm.
the Johns and the demand. And so then a church took a whole men's curriculum with their men's
Mhm.
ministry and trained men in churches. We talk about backpacks and kind of in-kind stuff, but also events and celebrating survivors and their milestones. And how about basic needs? How about so there's this long list of gaps. So I would say, like, as you link arms with other churches, if you can at the same time be learning what those gaps are, and churches, let's be gap fillers, right? Like there might
Mhm.
be things that our partners
Gap
say, I
fillers.
can't have enough of backpacks, or they might say, I have backpacks out of my ears right now. What
Mhm.
else can you do? Here's a
Mhm.
list. And I always love getting a list because I'm like, I get to show up knowing what I'm good at and pick off of a list that I feel confident I can deliver at a high quality.
Mhm.
And listener churches, let's link arms with each other in a way that's going to continue to mend the brokenness that onlookers have seen between churches, right? Like some people I've
Hmm.
heard go, well, we don't work with churches because they're just so hard to work with. They don't even work well together. And let's
Mhm.
let that be a
Hmm.
thing of the past. And just remember that everything you're doing to build that trust is not, it's with the survivor, right? If you ever interact with a survivor, but it's
Mhm.
also with the gens. You're building trust with an individual. You're building a
Yep.
trust with an organization. You're building trust with your community. And so if we can go in with that humility posture and be an,
Mhm.
an
Hmm.
actual learner, not thinking we know all the things or exactly what the gens or the organizations in our community need, I think
Mhm.
that's just going to be so healing and so restorative. And
Mhm.
the enemy wants us to be divided. So their enemy wants
Yep.
there to be confusion, and the enemy wants there to be pride in the way, right? But if we
Mhm.
slow our
Yep.
roll a little bit and kind of block the enemy in that way and stand united, I think we could really bring an amazing force to this cause and any others when we stand united.
I think that also what the church needs to understand as well is because a lot of our victim service providers are based off of grants, right?
Hmm.
Mhm.
We only have capacity to do certain things. So the
True.
church has a wonderful opportunity to be able to provide these extra things and these wonderful opportunity for the church to fill in those gaps that we cannot
Hmm.
provide. Right.
Hmm.
So we talk a lot about also Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And so the
Hmm.
church can always fill those basic needs on the bottom. However, you have the wonderful opportunity to go above and beyond and be able to
Hmm.
fill some of those higher tier levels of those
Hmm.
self-actuality and create a dignified opportunity for clients and survivors to reach,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
I think that that is really special as well.
And I just want to say to the listener, and I know we have to we have to sign off, and so we can go be about our Father's business. But to
Mhm.
the listener and to other churches represented that are listening or watching, how about embracing this posture of being so humble in our approach to partnering that we say, you know what, whatever is needed, we can do what we're good at, or we can be gap fillers, and
Mm-hmm.
we're even willing to sit on the bench until we are
Mm-hmm.
needed. We're willing to
Mhm.
just be that ready church to say that when it's
Mm-hmm.
our turn to step up, then we'll be ready, and we'll be praying for those other churches and the survivors and everybody involved. I think that is what really makes and builds the kingdom. And to your point, Erica, makes us effective. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and doing help that actually helps, and not having, like we mentioned several times before, this attitude of, well, we want to do this and it has to be this and we have to have our
Mm-hmm.
name on this, and like, let's just do
Mhm.
good work
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and see good results and be okay
Mm-hmm.
with that, even if it
Mhm.
means it's not my turn yet. I'm
Mhm.
gonna sit on the bench and cheer on my other teammates from
Mm-hmm.
across the street or across the country. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm in it
Mhm.
for the
I love
long
that.
haul type
Yeah.
posture.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that posture of just, I'm going to sit on the bench and learn and, just learn from my counterparts, in other cities and other states, but also like right in my city. And if you
Mm-hmm.
think of it
Mhm.
like, like your church is in the center of a bubble, and the bigger your bubble gets, you're going to hopefully, touch another church's bubble that's close to you. And, how can you as a community minister, listener, as you're listening to this, like, how can you network with other churches and even bring those churches into the community minister network?
Mm-hmm.
And, have them listen to all of this,
Mm-hmm.
and, find those local churches, find your local task force, find all the things together so that we can make
Mm-hmm.
a greater impact for longer. And I mean, can you even
Mm-hmm.
imagine like what
Yep.
ripple effect and how we would shut down the enemy even more,
Yes.
with just working together, because we just get so siloed, and this is my little bubble and this is my little church, and you do
Yep.
your thing over there and we'll do our thing, but like, yeah, let's work together in this for sure. What I
Okay,
could add to
about
that.
this analogy sitting on the bench, I just want to remind
Yes.
you that does, when you're sitting on the bench, you're
Hmm.
leaning in and you're watching the game and you're taking notes for when it's your time to jump in. So you're not sitting on the bench like twiddling your thumbs and just kind of waiting till someone goes, "Hey, remember, we're in the game." So, church, if you don't feel like it's your time to engage outside of your church walls in a certain way, there's a long list of things you can do inside of your church walls to
Hmm.
engage people, to love on people inside the ministries that you're already well connected with. So yes, and what Jerome said, like, we're in this game and the game is, it's a wild game. So, and the enemy is
It's
fighting
wild.
hard, and we got to fight hard too and study up on when it's our time to be tapped on the shoulder.
For sure. One last question, Jennifer. Where would they go before we sign off? Where would a community minister go to find like a task force? Like
Yeah.
where would they start?
I don't know if there is a whole lot of functioning task forces at the moment.
Hmm.
There may be, but what I would do is try to find your local victim service provider
Got it.
first. And you can probably just Google that. And
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
from there, see if there is some type of connection to a task force, and then go
Mm-hmm.
from there. Normally, if you do find a task force, they normally have some type of open public meeting that you can attend
Hmm.
to find out more information. Our task force also has, if you're local here in Orange County, our task force has a ton of great information on there. We have a victim service report that we put out every couple years. So
Hmm.
yeah, so if you're interested in that, you can look that up as well.
Love that. Well, Jennifer, we cannot thank you enough just for the insight, the wisdom, just the
Yes,
lovely
thank you.
information that you have given us. It has
Yes.
been invaluable. So thank you very
Mm-hmm.
much for giving us your time and letting us just pick your precious brain on all of these things. We
Of course,
appreciate you being
thank you
here.
so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yay.
So, Community Minister Network, you know what to do now. Google that task force immediately after you get off this podcast, and be sure to like us on Facebook and love us on Insta and X and all the things.
Mhm.
Community Minister Network, Community Minister dot network
Mhm.
is our address. So come and find us, listen, like, love, all the things, and for we are so thankful for this network. We're so thankful for Jennifer, and I'm very thankful for Erica and Mr. Jerome. But yeah, in all of that, y'all, stay salty.
See you next time.